NBC News can confirm it is cold.
Yeah, it feels like 5 when my alarm went off. I'm like, lovely.
Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Wednesday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to begin our show this morning in Washington, where President Trump continues to introduce sweeping new changes to government following an initial flurry of executive orders. In a controversial move on Tuesday, the Trump administration ordered all federal employees hired in diversity, equity, and inclusion roles to be placed on paid leave and eventually laid off. The order came in a memo sent to the heads of government departments and agencies.
That comes after the first few prisoners locked up on charges related to the January 6th Capitol attacks were released yesterday. They walked out of prison after President Trump pardoned about 1,500 January 6 defendants and commuted the sentences of 14 prisoners. Among those set free, the former head of the far-right group the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, and the former Oath Keepers leader, Stewart Rhodes. Speaking at a news conference yesterday, the president defended his pardons and commutations, even though some were charged with violent crimes connected to the riots.
These people have already served years in prison. And they've served them viciously. It's a disgusting prison. It's been horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing.
NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard joins us now with more on this. Vaughn, let's start with the ongoing fallout to these January 6 pardons. What else did we hear yesterday from the president on this issue? And just what more do we know about the people who have actually been released so far?
Yeah, last night, guys, he defended his decision to move forward with those pardons. There were 14 individuals who had their sentences commuted. Those were the leaders of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys who were charged on those seditious conspiracy charges. They also released yesterday from the prison system. But then more than 1,500 that were pardoned, including more than 175 who had either pled guilty or been found guilty to violently assaulting police officers. And when he was asked about this, the president last night at the White House, by including our own Peter Alexander, he essentially sidestepped saying that he would look at each individual case, but that's what he has already done. And the pardon is final. And these individuals have now they have been released through the prison system and are now formally pardoned.
Vaughn, it's been interesting because it seems like this decision is even splitting the GOP. Tell us reaction from senators.
Right. President Trump made the case that these people love their country, was the words that he used, and that they have already served enough time in prison for the events that unfolded on January 6th. But lawmakers on Capitol Hill, Republicans and Democrats, they struck a different chord in response, except for some Republicans who defended the president's decision. Take a listen.
It's a betrayal of the highest order of our Capitol police officers, who risked their lives to keep us safe.
I think they were absolutely justified. Again, I don't know all the cases. I certainly don't want to pardon any violent actors, but there was a real miscarriage of justice here.
I just can't agree. I'm about to file 2 bills that will increase the penalties up to and including the death penalty for the murder of a police officer, and increasing the penalties and creating federal crimes for assaulting a police officer. That should give you everything you need to know about my position.
President Trump was even asked about his own Vice President, J.D. Vance's comments just 2 weeks ago, that he also opposed the pardoning of violent assaulters of police officers. And yet that is the decision that the president made, and it's final.
All right, Vaughn, let's also talk about the other big story yesterday, the move by President Trump to put DEI hires on paid leave. Eventually, they'll totally lose their jobs. It's part of this wider push to dismantle federal DEI programs. Tell us more about the rationale behind this step. And do we know just how many people are losing their jobs here?
Right. He put the executive order on day one to try to dismantle any DEI efforts here. But then last night, this memo to agency and department staff indicating that anybody that works in a DEI capacity should be put on paid leave, and then ultimately that they should be terminated from their positions. Now, one source indicates to me that there's a question of just how many people actually across the executive branch exist in this type of capacity. There are many DEI political appointee positions that the Trump administration clearly will not fill. But when it comes to the civil worker, the workforce, it is not clear how many individuals actually fill the DEI space. And so while this was a very clear-cut request that has been made by the Trump administration, I'm also told that it's not exactly clear how many individuals this will actually lead to the termination of.
All right, Vaughn, thank you so much.
Well, it's the third day of his second term, but President Trump's mass deportations and ICE raids are not playing out as quickly as he promised. Raids targeting several so-called sanctuary cities across the U.S. were supposed to get underway immediately after Monday's inauguration, but as of last night, they do not seem to have started yet.
The Department of Homeland Security did announce that it's rolling back a restriction that will increase law enforcement access to what have been called sensitive spaces. So now officers can target places like schools, churches, playgrounds, and daycare centers.
NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us with more. Julia, good morning. So what are some of the reasons that so far these haven't gotten underway yet?
You know, it's interesting. I'm hearing a number of things. One is that perhaps they want to see Trump's pick for DHS, to lead DHS, Kristi Noem, to be confirmed and have her installed before they start these deportations. Another is that they simply don't have the funding. As we know, when we've reported here, they were short $230 million at ICE to carry out the normal operations and the level of deportations they were doing under the Biden administration. So it could be that some of these people got there and said, we don't have the capacity to arrest, detain, and put on planes the number of people we want to deport. I actually had a chance to ask Tom Homan about this yesterday when I saw him in person briefly and off camera, and he said, we are devoting more people to this mission. So that might not necessarily mean that there's going to be the shock and awe early on that we expected. That could mean it comes later. But the week is not over yet, and I do think that we may see some action in major metropolitan cities by the end of the week, Savannah.
Julia, so some sanctuary cities we know have laws or ordinances in place protecting migrants in spaces like schools and churches, the ones I mentioned just a moment ago. So now that DHS has opened those up to law enforcement, what kind of pushback could Trump's administration get when it comes to immigration raids? Are there people who are concerned that we could see raids in schools where children are?
We've already seen some of that pushback, Joe. The mayor of Denver is saying how disruptive that could be to their community if their children afraid of going to school because of deportation raids, people who would be afraid to seek emergency health care because they're afraid they could be arrested there. And that's from a mayor who wanted to have common sense conversations with the Biden administration about what to do about the influx of migrants in his city. These new policies used to be blanket. It actually began in the Obama administration. They were upheld in the first Trump administration and then expanded under Biden, which basically said unless someone is an imminent threat to public safety, ICE is not allowed to go into these safe spaces. It also included rallies. So if there was a rally, say for Pathways to Citizenship where undocumented immigrants might go, that would not be a place that ICE would target for arrest. And so there are some mayors here who are pushing back. But I have to say, Joe, just based on the playbook here, that's exactly what the Trump administration wants. They also want to be able to take to court or withhold federal funding for sanctuary cities where the local law enforcement refuses to cooperate with ICE. This is all a battle that Trump is willing to wage.
Julia, one of the immigration-related executive orders from Trump that's probably facing some of the most legal concerns here, with nearly 24 states filing lawsuits over this, it's this attempt to end birthright citizenship. What do these lawsuits argue?
Well, they argue that it's a violation of the Constitution, that it's been clearly stated in the 14th Amendment that people who were born here are citizens. There are a few exceptions if you come in as a child of a diplomat, for example, because you wouldn't be, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. That's written into the 14th Amendment. But otherwise, people who are born here are U.S. citizens. And so they say that this new executive order, which directs federal agencies to do a 30-day review of how they can enact this policy, they say that's in violation. They don't want to see that go into effect. We should say that isn't in effect currently because of that review. But what Trump has said is not only that if you're born to a parent who is here unlawfully, that you're not a U.S. citizen. If you're born to a mother who is here lawfully but temporarily, for example, here working on a visa, you would not be a U.S. citizen. That, as we understand, could actually be a huge setback to some companies that use those visas to attract workers to the United States. It's a big battle that the Trump administration, again, is willing to wage, but the blowback on that particular piece has been immense and very fast.
All right, Julia Ainsley, thank you so much.
Now, as the confirmation process continues to play out for President Trump's top cabinet picks, new allegations are coming to light against his nominee for Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. NBC News got an exclusive look at an affidavit from Hegseth's former sister-in-law, the ex-wife of his brother. It was submitted to senators yesterday and details allegations of volatile and threatening conduct from Hegseth against his second wife, Samantha Hegseth. The affidavit comes after the Senate Armed Services Committee leader, Democratic Senator Jack Reed, requested more information on Hegseth's fitness to serve as defense secretary.
Pete Hegseth's lawyer dismissed the allegations against him. His ex-wife here, Samantha, said in a statement to NBC News there is no physical abuse during their marriage. She also said she will not talk more about their marriage. And an order in their 2021 divorce proceedings shows that both of them agreed that, quote, neither parent claims to be a victim of domestic abuse.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now. She's part of the team that broke this story. Julie, good morning. So just what kind of allegations does this affidavit detail about Pete Hegseth? And tell us more about how he is responding.
Hey guys, good morning. Yeah, well, Danielle Hegseth, who is the former sister-in-law of Pete and Samantha Hegseth, that's his second ex-wife, she says that Pete Hegseth acted in a way that made Samantha fear for her safety. She details in this affidavit that in some of these cases, Samantha had to hide in her closet to get away from Hegseth, that she had, in one case, actually activated an escape plan that has been triggered by a safe word sent to her friends and family, her confidants, which is who Danielle was in this case. Now, Pete Hegseth is denying all of this. His attorney is saying that Danielle Hegseth does not like Pete, that they have had a bad relationship. And of course, Samantha Hegseth had told us that there was no physical abuse in the marriage. But these allegations now, for the first time, going from anonymous smears to a place where there's an on-the-record statement from Danielle Hegseth saying these things. And I think that's something senators are paying attention to.
Hegseth's Senate vote was expected as soon as tomorrow. He would just need a simple majority to be confirmed. That's 51 of the Senate's 53 Republicans. But could these new allegations, do we think, impact that vote? Is it shaking confidence among his own party?
Well, I'll tell you that even before these allegations came to light, in this public manner of somebody signing on the dotted line and signing the sworn affidavit, there were allegations, there were rumors, people knew things on both sides of the aisles, the transition knew certain things. There were these back and forth conversations. And even in one-on-one meetings, I'm told by some Republicans that they brought up specific allegations of his alcohol abuse, that sexual assault, the alleged sexual assault that he had denied in Monterey was a concern even back in December. And then you have these other rumors of his potential behavior for his ex-wives. Now, it's going to be tricky, of course. The president deserves to have who he wants in his cabinet. Certainly Republicans want to give that to him. But I spoke to several Republicans who have viewed this affidavit yesterday in a closed-door setting and on redacted version. And look, this vote is definitely getting sped up, right? They quickly reported him out of committee on Monday. The vote could happen as soon as Thursday for a full confirmation vote. And so the clock is ticking, but certainly senators are concerned. They need at least 4, of course, because of J.D. Vance, to be able to actually block his nomination.
Julie, real quick, let's talk about some of the other cabinet nominees. What hearings are scheduled for today, and could we see any other confirmation votes this week?
Well, it was interesting because, of course, yesterday Elise Stefanik was on the Hill for her confirmation hearing. Doug Collins was on the Hill for his confirmation hearing. There are still a couple that we're waiting on. Tulsi Gabbard's hearing has not yet been scheduled officially. They're looking to have her come in some point next week because that FBI paperwork has officially been submitted. There are several votes happening already. Marco Rubio was confirmed as Secretary of State on the night of inauguration. John Ratcliffe to be CIA director. He was reported out of committee. That nomination is heading to the floor. Again, Pete Hegseth could be voted on later this week. Kristi Noem is going to come up for a vote soon. She will be the head of the Department of Homeland Security. So these things are moving very quickly. Pam Bondi, we know, of course, sat before a committee for a hearing. Her nomination will move soon out of the committee as well. Kash Patel still has to have his hearing for FBI director. So certainly a lot of moving parts still on these nominees. I'll tell you, though, since Rubio got confirmed, no other nominees have gotten confirmed yet. There's some back and forth with Democrats and Republicans Republicans and trying to hold some things up, especially given these new allegations against Pete Heth. We'll see, of course, what happens here.
All right, Julie, thank you so much.
Well, now let's get to the historic winter storm that's sweeping across the South. Temperatures have dropped to around 25 degrees below normal as measurable amounts of snow fall in places not used to it, like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and New Orleans.
The storm is closing roads and schools, canceling flights from Texas to the Carolinas. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has the latest from Houston, where the airport is expected to reopen this morning. Hey there, Priscilla. Good morning.
Yeah, Joe, good morning. A bit of good news there that the airport is going to reopen. As you can see, though, still a lot of snow out here. Some of it did start to melt yesterday as the sun came out. But the issue is that overnight, those temperatures dipped again. Right now, it is a cool 20 degrees here. And so there's a big concern about ice on the roads, that the snow that melted may have refrozen overnight, becoming ice. We're already seeing some of that out here on the sidewalks. And so it's another day of folks being urged to stay off the roads, even as the airports are now reopened in a number of these states. And so folks are going to be able to get out on planes if they're interested in seeking warmer weather. Joe, Savannah.
Priscilla, tell us a little bit, too, just about how it's being handled in Houston. What are locals telling you, just in a place that's not quite used to this much snow?
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun for folks yesterday. We saw people out sledding and doing all of those things. Places like Bourbon Street filled with snow, beaches covered in snow. It was just sights that people had not seen before. But now is sort of coming the days where officials are still asking people to kind of hunker down as this weather moves through. And we had a lot of people who said they were prepared. They had stocked up on supplies. They had wrapped their pipes, covered their plants, did all of those things, because those infrastructure issues are still going to be a concern. Already we saw parts of Louisiana having to go under a boil water notice because of some of that. Some good news, though, is that the power grid here in Texas has been holding up very well. We have seen some local outages in places like Florida and Texas and Louisiana, but nothing widespread. So hopefully we can make it through these next couple of days in that same way, even as these cold temperatures stick around a while.
Yeah, and it's not just the South. All kinds of areas all around the country are being impacted by this wintry weather. I mean, what can you tell us about just what's going on along the East Coast, including places like Florida and South Carolina?
Yeah, this storm is on the move. So you've got Florida, places like Tallahassee. The airports there are going to be closed until midday today. There are also schools and businesses that are closed there because of some of the weather that they're getting. So it's still causing some major disruptions. In North Carolina, we saw them beginning to stage National Guard troops as they prepare to handle what's heading their way. And so the storm is continuing to move east, and it's going to continue to cause some issues for folks both traveling on the roads and also just in general in terms of living in these really cold Arctic temperatures for a little bit longer. But hopefully folks will get a chance to thaw out soon. Joe, Savannah.
Priscilla Thompson, I hope that includes you. Get inside. Thanks so much.
All right, let's stick with that wintry mess that's hitting the South and check your morning news now weather.
Michelle Grossman is here tracking it all for us. Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, we had that historic snowstorm yesterday into the overnight hours. It's pretty much off the coast at this point. I'll show you on radar where it's kind of lingering, but we still have 13 million Americans under winter alerts. I expect these alerts to drop out pretty soon, with the exception of portions of Virginia, the most eastern part of Virginia, and also North Carolina. So as we look at radar, you can see most of this has moved off the coast. It's an area of low pressure now over the Atlantic. You can see a little smidge here in portions of South Carolina, also in eastern North Carolina. That's where we could see some accumulating snow. It's not going to amount to much, maybe up to an inch at the most. But we're also looking at some heavy rain. That's going to linger for most of today in parts of southern Florida, where you see those brighter colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows. That's where we're seeing the heaviest rain, and that will be continuing throughout the day. Also really cold temperatures. We're not going to see an end to those cold temperatures. We're looking at freezing temperatures even down to the south. So those showers linger, then it's completely off the coast by later on today into tomorrow. Notice this, we're looking at some accumulating. Most of us in the south will not see accumulating snow, with the exception of Morehead City, could see up to an inch at most as we go throughout this morning hours. Otherwise, it's out of here. Let's talk about the cold. This continues to be a huge story. We're looking at dangerous chills still. That Arctic air all the way from the northern plains to the southern plains, 160 million people still under an extreme cold watch or an extreme cold warning. Where you see the extreme cold warning, that is in that darker pink here. So that includes places like Houston, New Orleans, parts of the Appalachians into the Ohio Valley. So this is not going anywhere. We're going to see another cold day tomorrow and then into the weekend. It looks like by the end of the weekend, we're going to start to see some improvements, but still really chilly for this time of year. So as we go throughout time here, we're going to see daytime highs anywhere from 10 to 30 degrees, once again below average. Notice in Chicago, 23 degrees, but 30s even in the south. We're looking at Jackson, Mississippi, 39 degrees, 31. That is below freezing in New Orleans. So that snow that's on the ground is going to stay put for a little while. 37 in Panama City, 36 in Charleston, and just 21 in New York City. A cold morning this morning. We're going to see another cold morning tomorrow morning. So record lows along the Gulf Coast to the Carolinas, just 23 tomorrow morning in Pensacola. You factor in the winds, it's going to feel like 20. It will feel like 26 in Jacksonville. Another cold morning in the New England area, the Northeast, pretty much everywhere except for the portions of the West.
Find the warm spot.
Hey, we should do that. That'd be much quicker. It'd be like a 3-second hit. And then gradual warm up as we head towards Friday and Saturday. But, you know, that's in quotes because you look at Friday and Saturday, it's still below freezing. So 30 degrees on Saturday, but much better than it has been today and then compared to yesterday as well. Elsewhere in the country, we're looking at fire risk once again, not quite as high as yesterday in Southern California, but still we're looking at a critical risk. And then that's going to ramp up once again as we go through tonight into tomorrow. We're just stuck in this pattern where the Santa Ana winds just keep coming.
Yeah, hopefully they break it soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Well, as the dangerous Santa Ana winds, as Michelle just mentioned, return, several new wildfires sparked across Southern California yesterday. Fortunately, firefighters tamed the flames before any real damage could be done. It comes as some people in Los Angeles are returning to their homes for the first time in weeks to see what's left. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz has more.
Firefighters racing to put out multiple brush fires igniting across Southern California. The Friar Fire in San Diego threatening a mall and several homes after the Lilac Fire forced evacuations. And now, 2 weeks after the devastating Eaton and Palisades fires in L.A. County, FEMA saying it has received more than 97,000 claims. Some families are finally able to return to see what's left of their homes, including two we met last week, the Edwards family in Altadena and the Andonians in the Pacific Palisades.
My heart was beating. I knew that it's going to be difficult. There are no words you can explain. You know, you have to feel it on your skin. You have to feel it in your mind.
In Altadena, Maria and Craig Edwards are seeing what was their home of 30 years.
This is a lot. It's like somebody hit you in your stomach. They gave you a big punch in the gut. This is a lot to take.
Since the fires, the couple has bounced between a hotel and 2 Airbnbs. They've submitted claims to their insurance, the state-created FAIR plan, but have yet to receive any funds.
Trying to find an apartment and paying rent and paying a mortgage is just going to be a little tough. A lot of tough.
Sifting through the rubble, they found one thing miraculously untouched.
What's in that jewelry box? Oh my God, is that your ring?
Oh my God, this is it. Found it. Thank you, Lord.
Maria's wedding ring.
But I know we're going to get through this. We have to get through this.
Small signs giving hope when so much is lost.
And President Trump is likely to visit Los Angeles on Friday to tour the destruction here. This comes as rain is now in the forecast this weekend, raising concerns about mudslides with all this debris. Back to you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.